It was 4 short years ago, I'm sure you remember, The Atlantic published an article alleging that President Trump refused to visit an American cemetery in France because it was filled with losers and called fallen American Marines suckers. That was the news story in The Atlantic. Today, Kamala Harris commemorated the fake story and the anniversary of that fake story in Atlantic magazine on her campaign's X page. It's an X page now. And the Trump campaign immediately responded with, laid waste to Kamala's claims, saying that the story was not true and that Trump's scheduled visit to the ceremonies was called off due to weather, you may recall. The campaign quoted 14 officials who were actually on the 2018 France trip with then-President Trump, like former National Security Advisor John Bolton, who is no cheerleader for President Trump these days, who said, "I was there at the point in time that morning when it was decided that he would not go to the Marne Cemetery. He decided not to do it because of John Kelly, Chief of Staff and General John Kelly's recommendation. It was entirely a weather-related decision, and I thought the proper thing to do," John Bolton said. Now, this is you may remember this event, and it's
I was in the White House during this time, so yes.
And still being used, trotted out by the Democrats.
Well, this is the falsehood that keeps coming out of Kamala Harris. I mean, everything that she has talked about in terms of so many things that she's talked about Donald Trump is just one lie after another. And the problem is that you don't have the legacy media basically doing necessarily the fact-checking on Kamala Harris. Instead, you have them always just focus on criticizing and, destroying Donald Trump.
And Jason, I know this is a favorite talking point of the Democrat Party, this whole France cemetery thing and what Trump allegedly said. And again, the campaign put out, John Bolton is not a cheerleader for President Trump anymore. And he's out there saying that's a lot of hooey. It was weather. The Marines said the helicopters couldn't fly safely, and that was that.
Now, whether he said the words suckers and losers referring to members who lost their lives in the military, I think it's consistent with what he said publicly, particularly about John McCain and people who were prisoners of war. So I think that's why a lot of people believe it. Also, General Kelly confirmed that he actually said those words.
General Kelly hates Donald Trump.
The other thing,
okay,
I would say,
I'm sorry, he hated Donald Trump.
Jeffrey Goldberg, the guy who wrote that article that we just referenced, said he had several sources within the White House who said that the former president spoke that way.
Well, there are people that don't like Donald Trump that are in the White House that are part of the national security team that have been there. They're not, their careers are not political. Let me tell you, there was a lot of people trying to dismantle and undermine President Trump, as we saw many of these leaks that came out of the National Security Office when it came to phone calls with foreign leaders, which you should never allow those types of leaks to go out. And that was always these people that were always trying to undermine President Trump. That came from the State Department and it came from the National Security Team. And
Samantha, you come from a military family and a military upbringing and all that good stuff. And also I would say that John McCain was a specific opponent and they were having personal back and forth issues, unlike people in a cemetery in France.
Yeah, the only reason we're even talking about an allegation from 4 years ago by a disgruntled former employee is because Kamala Harris has no credibility on the military. The Gold Star family issue that happened last week, I think is going to be the turning point in the campaign. She'd rather perpetuate a lie than call the members of the Gold Star families for the last 3 years that have never heard from her. She can't be bothered to say their kids' names, wasn't present for the dignified transfer. And I hope that every American, I hope that every voter has a chance to watch the testimonies from those Gold Star families and hear how military families really think about Kamala Harris. That's why she wants to put out and dredge up an old allegation from 4 years ago that didn't happen, and that's not true.